Welcome to the Benzino Podcast, where we're calling a spade. Great to be here with you guys today. Censorship is alive and well, especially when it comes to these far left publications like the New York Times, like the Washington Post, and like the Seattle Times. Many people, Jamel Hill, I'm looking at you. Kerry Champion, I'm looking at you. Many people look at this current situation right now. Keep men out of women's sports, keep boys out of girls' sports. Many people look at it like Jamel Hill and say, this is a non-story. This doesn't happen. I never hear about it. I never see it. It's not on the news. It's not in the paper. Why is that? Because it's a non-story. Well, you know what, Jamel Hill? We know why it's a non-story. The Seattle Times has been exposed as to contributing to the censorship of stories like this. Stories that say, we have a 16-year-old girl changing in front of 18-year-old boys in the locker room. Something's going on right there. Wait, we have a 16-year-old girl running track against an 18-year-old kid. Something's going on over there. Wait, we have a child competing against a boy. Something's going on over there. Stories like that are getting suppressed by the Seattle Times. And today, a reporter left the Seattle Times, and on his way out, he said, oh, they censored me over there. Not just on one story, but on many stories regarding this topic. Let's get into it, shall we? Like the video, hype the video, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. After 11 years as a sports columnist at the Seattle Times, I have decided to resign. It was entirely my choice, and it was not an easy one. The impetus was the Times declining to run a column I wrote from the perspective of two female student athletes who were opposed to competing against biological males. It was one of several pieces of mine that had been spiked, and I no longer felt like I could do my job properly as a columnist. I lay out the situation in greater detail in the link below, but I want to say that I enjoyed my time with the paper, find the talent there to be immense, and have no animosity toward anyone who works there. It was just time for a change. The Times declined to run a column that he wrote from the perspective of two female student athletes who are opposed to competing against biological males. No, we're not running that. No, we're not running that. It's a non-story. We're not running that. People don't need to know that this is going on. Nope, we're not running that. It was one of several pieces that have been spiked, aka thrown in the bin. He goes into further detail over here. I was a sports columnist at the Seattle Times for 11 years. This is why I resigned. I really wanted the column to run. I didn't think it would, but I felt obligated to try to get it in. Toward the end of last month, before the Seattle Storm hosted the Indiana Fever, I spoke to people attending a rally in support of Sophie Cunningham outside Climate Pledge Arena. The Fever Guard had recently taken a stance against biological males competing in women's sports, and a few dozen folks showed up to express their gratitude for her position. One of them was 16-year-old NLA Wilson, who'd lost to a biological male in a track and field race in 8th grade and was holding a sign reading, "Thank you, Sophie, for speaking up for girls." What? Lost to a biological male in a track and field race in 8th grade. This girl's now 16. 8th grade. What's that? 3 years removed from 8th grade? Good grief. I didn't know if I was going to write something at that point, but after she allegedly got cussed out by a Storm co-owner during the game, I felt like I had to weigh in. One thing Wilson emphasized to me at the rally was that she wasn't anti-trans. Another student athlete named Frances Stout, who said she'd endured daily verbal abuse after refusing to play against a biological boy in a basketball game, echoed Wilson's sentiment. So that was the thesis of my column, which you can read here. That supporting the separation of biological females and males doesn't automatically make you transphobic, so let's stop throwing those labels around. I sent a draft after talking to my editor the morning of Friday, July 31st, telling him there was no rush to run it. He told me later that day that he and others were looking at it, but that it wouldn't be ready for Sunday's paper. Monday night, I got an email saying that his boss was hoping to talking to the top two newsroom editors about it on Wednesday. No feedback had been given to me. Thursday afternoon, my editor informed me that it wasn't going to run because I didn't tell him I was doing this in advance. I didn't buy his reasoning. If that were the case, the piece would have been killed on the spot. not pass through the hands of multiple editors on several days. My response? To resign on the spot. That may come off as an emotional decision, but it was exactly what I was prepared to do. This, after all, was one of several columns of mine that had been spiked at the Seattle Times. One was a piece questioning whether players for the U.S. women's soccer team were really the victims of discrimination in their equal pay lawsuit. Another was a more general column on cancel culture in sports. The last, written shortly after George Floyd's death, implored people to listen to state champion basketball coach Mike Bethia, a black man urging public not to stereotype cops. The common theme? All of these challenged prevailing newsroom narratives and likely would have triggered the outrage mob. He left his job over this because he was tired of getting censored. He was tired of getting censored by the Seattle Times because they were scared to upset the woke mob. Again, this is why you don't hear stories like this. This is why you have to dig high and low and scour the internet to find stories like, because it gets buried so often, so frequently. Let's take a look real quick, just so you guys are familiar who this NLA Wilson girl is. This is her at the sideline of the Seattle Storm game, holding the "Thank you, Sophie, for speaking up" sign. J.K. Rowling acknowledged her. This is her. High school girl in Washington State, who has already had to race against boys many times as a sophomore. Quote, "It's sad to see all that work that I put in and to get there, and I'm going to get beat by a logical male." This is her right here. This is her again. I can't tell you how much I appreciate these brave young women who are fighting hard to keep men out of female sports. Bailey, NLA, and Francis have bigger spines than most of the female Democratic legislators in Olympia. I 100% support their efforts. They've been on the front line fighting for this. Take a look at some reactions. Clay Travis weighing in. "We may have a job for you at Sport and State. Unacceptable." Wow. Longtime Seattle Times sports columnist Matt Calkins says he has resigned after the paper refused to publish a column he wrote on the fight to protect girls' sports. Brave and correct. Thank you and Godspeed. The reason we never hear a view shared by 80% of the public in any newspaper in an industry-wide conspiracy to suppress those views in favor of an astroturfed pseudo-consensus. Not an easy decision. Not many people are principled like this. He's getting a lot of support for this. When a columnist is muted by a paper, the paper of record for the region, we have reached a dangerous place. The fact that it has happened multiple times to Matt is even worse. His Substack on this is a peek into how today's mainstream media operate, what integrity looks like. More proof the woke Seattle Times is totally compromised and exclusively advocates for leftist cause. Again, this is how you rile up a certain side. You silence common sense, you silence reason, you censor that, and you promote division. You promote things that will stir up the masses into acting insane. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video, hype the video, subscribe to the channel. That means so much to me. See you next time, and as always, take it easy.